Hi everyone, so welcome to one more fantastic 5 MCQs for NEET PG FMG. Myself Dr. Bharat Kumar, your pharma faculty. Let us start with the first MCQ. First line drug for mastitis. The options are dicloxacillin, cefazolin, ampicillin and clindamycin. So try to answer this question. The question is asking first line drug for mastitis. The answer will be dicloxacillin. And why? Now, mastitis or breast abscess, the first thing what we do, if there is a breast abscess, incision drainage. But if there is still mastitis, we have to start the antibiotic. And the most common organism which causes this is Staphylococcus aureus. So for Staphylococcus aureus, we need to give anti-staphylococcal penicillins. Anti-staphylococcal penicillin, these are the first line drugs. So what are the anti-staphylococcal penicillins? The names are oxacillin. For that, if you add, it becomes cloxacillin. And if you add a di for that, it is dicloxacillin. And please remember, all these three are oral drugs. The one which can be given parental are methicillin and one more drug called nafcillin. The problem with nafcillin, they are parental drugs, but they can cause interstitial nephritis. So the best option or first line option for Staph aureus is, you can see here, it is dicloxacillin. You may ask a question, why not ampicillin? Because Staph aureus produce an enzyme called penicillinase, and this penicillinase will cut the ampicillin. So ampicillin will not work. Suppose I want to give ampicillin. Along with ampicillin, I have to give sulbactam. So the sulbactam is going to inhibit penicillinase, and the ampicillin will kill Staph aureus. Coming to other things, what we need to understand from this is cefazolin. Remember, if you want to be jolly even after surgery, you give cefazolin, the first generation cephalosporin, for surgical prophylaxis. And this is given 1 hour before the incision being made on the patient. Then remember clindamycin. Clindamycin, remember, mainly for, it is used for anaerobic infections. Anaerobic infections, particularly above the diaphragm, the anaerobic infection. Suppose this is the diaphragm. Below diaphragmatic infections, we use metronidazole. Above the diaphragm, it is clindamycin. And also it is preferred for acne. Now, one more common adverse effect we see with clindamycin is pseudomembranous colitis caused by Clostridium difficile. Now, can anybody tell me what is the drug of choice for managing pseudomembranous colitis? So I told you, if we treat Staph aureus, then we give anti-staphylococcal penicillin. Now what happened later? This organism became resistant, that is called MRSA. So MRSA is due to altered penicillin binding protein. The reason is due to alteration of penicillin binding protein. So no beta-lactam works on that, except 5th generation cephalosporin. No beta-lactam works on MRSA. Very, very important point. That is why the drug of choice for MRSA is vancomycin. It is the vancomycin. Now, can you tell me what is the drug of choice for vancomycin resistant Staph aureus? So you have to tell me two things in the comment section: drug of choice for pseudomembranous colitis and drug of choice for VRSA. Let me move on to the next question. Mechanism of action of Curare-like drugs. Curare, they mean by D-tubocurarine-like drugs. D-tubocurarine, or the drug ending with curium like atracurium, or the drug ending with curonium, what is the mechanism of action they are asking you? Blocking acetylcholine receptor, blocking acetylcholine synthesis, persistent depolarization, blocking presynaptic calcium channels at neuromuscular junction. So let us answer this. So the answer for this is option A, blocking acetylcholine receptors. Let us see how they work. So this is the neuromuscular junction, and whenever there is action potential, sodium enters and then calcium enters to the calcium channels, and this calcium will allow this vesicle to fuse, and there is release of acetylcholine. So there is acetylcholine release from presynaptic terminal. This acetylcholine will act on NM receptors, which are ion channel receptor, and that is going to cause skeletal muscle contraction. This is your normal physiological process. So can we block the calcium channels? Yes, we have drugs. They are called aminoglycosides. So aminoglycoside cause neuromuscular blockade by blocking these calcium channels. Now there is another drug which inhibits the acetylcholine release at neuromuscular junction. You know the name is Botox. Botox is nothing but botulinum toxin. Now there is a drug similar to acetylcholine which keeps on stimulating NM receptor. The name is called succinylcholine. So succinylcholine is similar to acetylcholine. It causes persistent depolarization, and the receptor will undergo desensitization, and that will lead to muscle paralysis. Now curative drugs are going to block NM receptor. Example D-tuberculin, then curium or curonium drugs. They are going to block NM receptor. So this is how they work. So coming back to the question, the answer is blocking acetylcholine receptor, that is NM, that is the mechanism. Blocking acetylcholine synthesis. Acetylcholine synthesis, not the mechanism. Persistent depolarization is succinylcholine. Blocking presynaptic calcium at neuromuscular junction is aminoglycoside. So this is tested frequently. Now tell me, how do you reverse these three drugs or these drugs? What is the reversal drug used for these three drugs? I'll give the clue. The name starts with N and P. Tell me that. Moving on to the third MCQ. Moving on to the next MCQ. A pregnant lady is admitted to the hospital and was diagnosed with moderately severe hemolytic anemia. After thorough workup, the only positive finding is a history of treatment with antihypertensive drug since 2 months after beginning the pregnancy. Which of the following was prescribed for her? So the question is simply asking, which drug can cause hemolytic anemia? Or what are the test for hemolytic anemia? Coombs test positive. Now the answer, can you tell me? Labetalol, methyl dopa, prazosin, nifedipine, sustained release. The answer is B, methyl dopa. So in more than 10 to 20% of patients, this can cause Coombs test positive. Now, if you find Coombs test positive, should you stop the treatment? No. If the patient is symptomatic, if the patient is having symptoms of hemolysis, then obviously you have to stop and give other antihypertensive. If there is no symptoms, no need to worry, continue the drug. So this is what we can do if Coombs test is positive. But here it is moderately severe hemolytic anemia, we need to stop. So the question is, what are the safest drug in pregnant men, which are antihypertensive, safe antihypertensive in pregnant men? The mnemonic is let me do care, hypertension pregnancy. L means labetalol. Me means methyl dopa, just now we discussed. And D means dihydropyridine. And the one is called nifedipine, sustained release. And C for clonidine, which is safer. H for hydralazine, which can be used in hypertensive emergency in pregnant women. And P for prazosin. So these are safe. Now, can you tell me why are we not giving spironolactone in pregnant women? Not given in pregnant women. Can you tell me in the comment section why spironolactone is not given in pregnant women? It's not teratogenic, but it's not given. Why? Moving on to the next MCQ. Which of the following drug inhibits 14-alpha demethylase enzyme? The options are amphotericin B, azoles, caspofungin, and terbinafine. Amphotericin B mainly act on cell membrane, and by acting on cell membrane, it creates pore. So creating pore in cell membrane, the contents will move out, the cell will swell up, and they will kill the fungus. So it is fungicidal in nature. So the name is amphotericin B. Azoles are the one which inhibit 14-alpha demethylase. So the answer is B, azole, fluconazole, luliconazole, ketoconazole. Then what is the role of 14-alpha demethylase? This will convert lanosterol. This will convert lanosterol into ergosterol. This ergosterol is required for making cell membrane. So if I inhibit this step, ergosterol is not formed, cell membrane is not formed. Caspofungin mainly act on cell wall and they inhibit 1,3-beta-glucan synthase in the cell wall. Okay? Yes. Terbinafine or terbinafine, it will inhibit an enzyme called squalene epoxide. Now, squalene epoxide is important to make squalene into lanosterol. You know, from lanosterol you get ergosterol. Now, can anybody tell me what is the mechanism of griseofulvin and flucytosine? So these are two antifungals. You have to tell me in the comment section what is the mechanism of these two antifungal drugs. Moving on to the next question, which of the following is true about fixed dose drug combination? What do you mean by fixed dose drug combination? Suppose this is a single tablet. In a single tablet, there are more than or equal to 2 drugs. Okay, so not a single drug, it is 2 or more than 2 drugs. Now, what is the advantage of making this? The advantage is they are asking what is true. The advantages of making FDC, let me write here. Fixed dose combination, the advantage is the cost comes down because we are giving them in a combo pack. So you have gone to movie, you have gone somewhere. If you take in combo, the cost comes down. Second, the fixed dose combination is important to decrease resistance problem, particularly in tuberculosis. And also, if patient is taking FDCs, the compliance is better. What do you mean by compliance? Compliance means they stick to the treatment, they take it every day as prescribed. For example, if I give 3 drugs and patient will not take it, suppose I combine all the 3 drugs and give a single tablet, obviously they will take it easily. So the cost decreases, resistance decreases, compliance increases. But what's the disadvantage? The disadvantage is sometimes unnecessary ingredients may be added. For example, in multivitamin capsule. Second, if there is an adverse effect, you can't point out which drug is doing that. If there are 2 drugs causing that, then you have to entirely stop the course. You have to discontinue the tablet. So coming back to the question, what is true? Are they costly? No. The purpose is to reduce the cost. They increase patient compliance. Dose of individual drugs can be altered. No, because the name itself is telling you the dose is fixed. So when the dose is fixed, you can't alter the dose. Then what is the advantage? They reduce the resistance and sometimes they may improve efficacy. So this will be the better answer, which is true. So that is about fixed dose drug combination. With that, we are done with the fantastic 5 MCQs. So any doubt you can ask me in the comment section. If you find this content useful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel and share to your friends. Thank you all.